you lead a church staff or any staff, by the way, you have felt this exact thing. You're in a meeting, okay? The meeting starts. There's lots of energy. In fact, you're there to create some energy. It's a thinking, brainstorming meeting. I love those, by the way. Someone in the meeting shares a really great idea and heads start nodding, including yours, and the vision feels so exciting. And then someone says, well, that won't work. You ever been in that meeting before? Of course you have, right? I mean, that one comment sucks the entire air out of the meeting, sucks the changes out of the meeting. It changes everything about the meeting. And now you're not leading ideas anymore. You're just managing this tension. Let me kind of tell you something that can very much help relieve the pressure of these moments, okay? This is not a personality issue. It's actually a leadership sequencing issue. There are two kinds of people in the world. Okay, that's a joke, right? But there are two different kinds of people when it comes to these meetings. And I do say that jokingly, but seriously, right? In every meeting, especially when you bring a team together, every team, there are wow people and there are how people. I love both of these people. There are wow people and how people. There are visionaries and there are implementers. There are kind of ideators and then there are executors. Now, your visionaries, they are wired to see what could be. They see possibility, they see expansion, they see impact. And your implementers, they are wired to see what will take, or to see what it will take. The idea, how long, the time, the budget, the systems, the volunteers, the follow through. Now, when you step back, at least out of the meeting, you realize both of these people are necessary. How people and wow people, they're both necessary. But if you allow those two kind of superpowers, and each one of those is a superpower, if you allow those two superpowers to collide without intentional structure, what you end up getting is just a lot of frustration every single time. Frustration for you as the leader, frustration for the wow people, lots of frustration for the how people. I mean, here's kind of what typically happens, okay? Like vision, it gets evaluated, at least in these meetings. Here's what happens. Vision, it gets evaluated just so early, right? Someone kind of shares an idea, and within seconds, the feasibility questions just start flying. You know, how much would this cost? Who's going to lead it? Do we even have the right people? What about insurance? That's my favorite question. And by the way, those are really good questions. They are wise questions. I am more of a wow person. I've had to learn to really appreciate those questions, even the insurance question. And by the way, the problem with these questions is they're just kind of out of order. When feasibility, this is important, okay? When feasibility shows up before possibility is explored, your visionaries are going to stop bringing ideas. It just shuts them down. They feel shut down. Let me kind of say that again, okay? When feasibility, there's an idea, a great idea possibly, or maybe it's a terrible idea. But when an idea is shared, if the feasibility of the idea shows up before possibility is even thought about yet, the idea bringers, they're going to stop bringing ideas. Now, on the flip side, right? If you let just ideas run unchecked without any feasibility guardrails at all, right? Your implementers will disengage. You're setting them up to fail. It's kind of a catch-22, right? Between the wows and the hows. So what do you do? If you're the leader, what do you do? Well, here's what you do. You lead the sequence, right? Here's how this works. In your next kind of meeting where some ideas are to be brought and shared and you're processing maybe a brainstorming kind of session, here's what you got to do. And you say this very clearly, okay? For the first part of the conversation, this is what you say. For the first part of the conversation, we are exploring possibilities. We are not evaluating feasibility yet. We're just talking ideas. We're just talking about what could be, what might be able to be. We're exploring possibility. Now, you're going to feel the difference immediately, and here's why, right? The minute your wow people hear that, they get excited because they know this is their time to shine because they have a superpower of thinking big, of thinking bold, of thinking possibility. Your how people, though, also know another part of the meeting is coming. You say, after the first half of the meeting, we're going to shift the conversation. After all the ideas have been fully surfaced, we're going to shift the room. And now we're going to start evaluating through a system. And there are 5 specific lenses. You've probably heard me talk about this before. We're going to use the 5 rights. We want to make sure that the right people are getting the right message at the right time in the right way that leads to the right next step. Again, if we're not thinking about this strategically, intentionally, we just have a bunch of ideas. And if those ideas accidentally get implemented without a well thought through system, we're just wasting everybody's time. And by the way, your how people are going to get even more frustrated. So you divide the meeting in half. The first half is really about the ideas, the possibilities, and you allow your systems thinkers, your how people to participate, but not to get irritated or frustrated because they know we're not into feasibility yet. The second half of the meeting, now we start talking feasibility. Now, most tension in this kind of church leadership, or by the way, this is true for any leadership setting, but the tension in this space really kind of comes down to when we ignore one or the other, the how or the wow. I mean, if those how people get ignored and they're not thinking about, or they feel like you aren't thinking about like those 5 rights, they're going to get really frustrated. I mean, why are we doing this? Can we even do this? Is this the right thing to do? Those are very valid questions. Of course, if you start with that, those wow people aren't going to bring any more ideas. I mean, what's the point if everything's going to get shot down from the very beginning? So a great idea might be to talk about this from a principled perspective. In fact, when you do that, it gives your implementers the responsibility of evaluating ideas through the right lens. It gives your visionaries the permission to think big, to think bold. I mean, here's the point. They all end up feeling honored, right? The visionaries, they feel heard. And you, as the leader, you get to regain control of the meeting while your practical people feel that they are going to add value. So let me give you something very practical that you can do, this week, if you have one of these meetings coming up. Before your next meeting, where ideas are going to be shared, just before you walk in, ask yourself 2 questions. Okay, here's the first one to ask yourself as the leader. What is the purpose of this meeting? Is it ideation or decision-making, or is it both? And then number 2, have I clearly communicated that purpose to the team? If you don't define the meeting, the loudest personality in the room will. And by the way, that's not good leadership. But clarifying it up front, every time we offer clarity, that's great leadership because clarity reduces pressure. And the reality is you don't really need fewer ideas. What you really just need is better sequencing. You don't need different people. You just need an intentional structure so that the people can leverage their superpowers and bring the best ideas and also vet the best ideas. Now, of course, the temptation is to have a brainstorm meeting separately from your execution meeting. And that's really not the best way to do it. Your visionaries need to appreciate and learn from your executors, from your how people. And at the same time, your how people need to experience the brainstorming. They need to experience the ideation so they understand the heart behind these ideas. So before they start working on feasibility, they have understood why the idea might be a good idea. This is really how momentum can build in meetings and across the organization. Initiatives get finished, your team feels aligned, and you don't feel like you're kind of carrying these 2 different groups alone. That's a terrible way to lead, right? So we're not just trying to make our meetings more productive. What we're really trying to do is make everybody feel valuable. And by the way, when you do that, you end up getting the best ideas and they get implemented.